everyone, to Choices from Struggle to Strength. Today, I'm happy to have Clinton Wasylishen with me. Welcome, Clinton.
Thank you so much. And great job on the name, by the way. My last name.
Oh, thank you.
First name's easy.
So, Clinton, tell us a little bit about what you're passionate about and why.
So, my big passion is really helping people figure out what their dream is and then live that dream. So, come up with a plan to find a way to live their dream now instead of later. I think you're probably familiar with the this sort of common theme where is I'll do that when I retire, whatever that is. And I think that is an entire waste of a life. And so um, there's two pieces to that. One is first figuring it out, then doing it. But three is not waiting, right? Like this is the idea, is not waiting. And so it really pains me to see people wait to live whatever their dream might be. So that's what I'm most passionate about.
So, let's go back a little bit. Share your story about some of the challenges that you've had getting to living your dream, because you are living your dream right now.
Yes, well, and what's funny is, and you used a really good word there in your dream. So something I hear from a lot of people as I talk to them in a day is, I am living the dream. And I like to point out to people that there is no the dream, there is no one dream. There's my dream and your dream, and there's certainly no collective dream, or at least not that I'm aware of it. So, yes, my dream. I I was born and grew up in Alberta, Canada, where it is very cold approximately 9 months of the year. And so you're in Alberta. I think you can relate.
I can
The
relate.
idea of, yeah, the idea of being, and I say this to people here, it's funny because they have no idea, but I say there's really two seasons in Alberta, and that is winter and mosquitoes. And so I now live in Costa Rica, where I thought mosquitoes were a problem, but then I realized that they've got nothing here on Alberta. So anyway, I grew up in Alberta, and I spent the better part of what would it be, about 35 years freezing my butt off, like I say, 9 months of the year. And I one day decided to come and visit Costa Rica. And when I visited Costa Rica, I got very clear on, I don't need to live like this, right? So I don't need to live this life that I'd been living up
Hmm.
until that moment. And so from that moment, I started making different decisions. That was like, if I could live anywhere, which I can, then where would I live? And I kind of like Costa Rica at the time. And I don't even, I can't even explain all the whys around Costa Rica. It's beautiful, wonderful. And of course, there is no winter here. That is the big advantage. And there are actually very few mosquitoes. So 2008 is actually when I first came to Costa Rica, and I loved it. And I said, I want to live here. 2009, I had a client actually ask me if I could come and house sit his father's home here in Costa Rica. So I spent 6 weeks here in 2009, and when I came in 2009, I decided I'm going to live there. I'm going to live here where I am now. And so um, I actually went home with the express intent of packing up, selling off all the things I didn't need, giving away those things that I also didn't need, and moving immediately to Costa Rica. Well, life happened, so to speak. And I met my partner, my current partner, and we decided to have a child. We decided to have a child in Canada. And so this meant a delay of, well, basically 6+ years. But we got here. Like, this is the point. And so, I had this idea, and I think, the funny part of the story is, of course, is that I sold or gave away everything that I owned because I didn't need it, or so I thought. And I went back, lo and behold, to actually having to need or want most of those things that I'd gotten rid of. So, yeah.
Oops.
Well, but I'm here, right? Like, at the end of the day, I'm here. And so we got down here in 2015, which was, like I say, 6 years later, but we're here and have been here since then. So that's the good and fun news. Living my dream, our dream.
So, we talked a little bit before about, you know, one challenge is deciding on your dream and then going for it. And
Yeah.
then another challenge is just moving from one continent to another, and not just as you as a person, but your whole family. So tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about how that went for you.
Well, and to begin, the very beginning was as we became pregnant, so to speak, the 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 topic of where should we have our child. Like, it actually was part of the conversation as in Costa Rica, but of course. Spanish is certainly not one of our native languages, and so to try and show up in a country that is whatever vastly socially different, culturally different, and also with another language, it was too scary, so to speak. And so we decided to stay put in Canada, and and we didn't stop at one. So we had two children, and we once that was so to speak out of the way, once they were old enough to move around easily, we made the decision to then, well, for me, a second time, sell or give away everything we owned to pack up. And we did the thing. We actually sold our vehicles. We had two cars, and we bought a minivan, and we packed everything into it, and then made a trip south. So we actually traveled the United States. We did this big giant road trip through the U.S. all the way to Florida, and from Florida we went to Costa Rica. So now, the fun part of the story is one of our, I'd say most difficult, but also most fun family adventures was traveling by minivan across the United States and living out of a tent with two young children. It was an adventure. And, we at least have got some good memories. The children, of course, were pretty young at the time, so they're a little foggy on it. They remember bits and pieces. But, for us, it was a big and fun experience at the same time as challenging, living out of a tent in a minivan. So actually, one of my favorite stories from the entire trip, just to share, was we went to a coffee shop one morning for breakfast, and somebody asked my son where we lived, and he told him that we lived in our van outside.
What kind of
Which
response did he get?
I don't know. I'm sure the guy didn't know what to say, but ultimately it was funny. Funny as like, technically that is where we were living. So anyhow, it was an adventure, and part of this is that, right? And so living the call it the different life, or a different life, or the dream, certainly comes with a set of challenges, but it's a different set of challenges when you just decide to sit in one place. And that challenge looks like not seeing the things you want to see, experiencing the things you want experiencing, not living the life that you want to live. And I think there's nothing kind of more tragic than getting all the way through life and having missed out on the things that you really wanted to see and do. So here we are, seeing and doing those things.
But you did also reference the fact that to live your dream, you had to decide it was okay to be different.
Yeah. And so there is, there's this whole other world of, let's just say, what should we call this? We'll say judgment even, right? Where it is, well, what about this? And well, what about that? For instance, one of the biggest questions that comes up as we've got two young children is education. And so, of course, it's different here. One could argue actually their education system is better than in Canada, but it is also in Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
which is its own unique challenge. But part of this is like we actually made a decision to create our own small school. So we actually have two teachers who teach our children and a group of other children as well. So there's 10 children in the school right now, more or less in our home. And so the idea that different needs to be hard or challenging or necessarily less than is false. And so, yeah, I'm not going to say that it wasn't work, because it was and remains work, but I firmly believe it's worth it in the end. And so, we are getting to live the life of our dreams. Our children are getting what I would consider to be a much better education than if they were, stuck in a school in Canada or the United States, and they get to live here. And, part of the real magic of living in the tropics here is that they spend time in nature every single day. Like, it's just part of life here. And so, and I think you fully understand it's not when it's 40 degrees below zero in Alberta, Canada. It's not, I mean, you can go outside,
But you don't stay out long.
you don't want to, yada, yada. So anyway, yeah, that's that.
So tell us a little bit about your business that has come out of all of this. you've experienced living your dream, and so you help others learn to live their dreams, right?
Yeah. And so ultimately, I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. There was definitely a period of time in the middle and before I made this decision to work a job. And I realized though, as part of all of this, the story that I told you is that, working a job had serious limitations. Like, and it's certainly today it's different than it was 10 years ago, in terms of like, there are many jobs that I could do now remotely, but still part of what it is that I believe I'm here to do is live life. And I have a hard time believing that you can live a fulfilled life when you're busy doing something else for 40 hours a week. And so, part of this is really, I work with entrepreneurs. I help them to get clear on what they view as their dream life first, because many people don't spend a lot of time thinking about this. Entrepreneur or not, most people don't spend 15 minutes of their entire life getting really clear on what they would like their life to look like. And so that's where we begin. And then we sort of map out a plan. And that is create, if they don't have a business, create a business that suits that dream and that lifestyle. So that's the crux of it. And part of the story that I didn't say, but the very first trip that I came here, I found myself unintentionally unplugged from my life. So it wasn't my intention when I came here, but that's exactly what happened. And so that period of a week, internet was not a thing here really back then. You could find an internet cafe, but it was not like you go to your hotel and they have Wi-Fi. It just didn't exist. And so in 2008, imagine. So, and of course my cell phone did not work here either. And so this is
Mm-hmm.
what I say. I got here and I was unintentionally unplugged. And it was a really powerful experience for me. And so one of the things that I do is bring people to Costa Rica, like have them come here and sit with me for 3 days while we get clear on their life and then their plans. So really, that's the crux of what it is I do. And I can tell you it's really fun. It's fun seeing people dream bigger than they've dreamed and then live bigger than they, well, previously had dreamed possible. So I love it. I mean, it's super fun for me. It's not a job.
And one of the benefits of being an entrepreneur is that if something like COVID hits, it doesn't really affect you like it does your 9 to 5 job. And you experienced that, didn't you?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Now there are two sides to that. COVID actually affected us in a big way. We had, I had two businesses running simultaneously. One is my coaching business, where uh, it was impacted to an extent because small businesses as a whole, were affected. But the flip side of this was we actually had a gym in Canada which we had to close at the beginning of the pandemic, and that came with its own set of challenges. I had created a business that could function without me physically present, but it became, well, I'm going to say impossible. I was going to say difficult to impossible, but impossible to continue on through the pandemic. So I had to close that. And that was a challenge, but unique to COVID. Of course, nobody could have guessed that would have ever happened. I mean, never, ever.
Mm-hmm. So, what advice do you have for people who are frustrated with their 9 to 5, but just feel like there's no other choice?
Well, the first step is really, and this is relatively easy. I'm going to say it's easy, but you have to be conscious about this, is to take some time, whatever it is, 10, 15, 20 minutes even, or longer. And I encourage nature. Nature's not necessary, but to go out into nature and spend time with your phone and any sort of distraction turned off, and really try to get clear in your head what it would look like. Like if you could live any life at all, what would that look like? And if you can get that picture in your mind, my strong encouragement is that you can live it. Like you can actually live that thing. And it's not to say that it'll be tomorrow or in 60, 90 days, but you can have that life. And the biggest obstacle for most people is not being clear on what that looks like that they first, what it looks like, and then second, that it's possible. And part of the really fun part about my business is I get to stand in the place of it is possible.
Right.
Even my partner, she didn't believe that we would ever end up in Costa Rica. So the real
Oh,
joke is
okay.
on her. Yeah, she thought I had this dream and it was never going to happen. So the joke is really, I'd like to joke now that the joke's on her, because we've been here for coming up on 8 years now. So haha.
Well, maybe we can delve into that a little bit. What
Hmm.
happens if you have one dream and your partner has a different dream?
Well, and this is a very interesting question, and it's a complicated task because if you do have two people, like inside of a marriage or relationship, and you've got two different dreams, it's it's a difficult and delicate dance. And originally, actually, part of the plan was before that we were actually going to explore New Zealand as well as a possible place to
Oh,
live, and
okay.
that was the plan before the pandemic. But the pandemic came along, that changed that, and so right now for us, this is actually the best place to be, and as near as we can tell, anyways. And New Zealand's really off limits for us. So it is this, and part of it for us was time, right? Like we weren't dead set on being here in Costa Rica, so to speak, forever. And people ask that all the time. They say, "Are you here forever?" And forever is who knows what that is, especially
It's a long time.
Well, given the events of the last 2 years with the pandemic, I mean, all this stuff that you never could have imagined happening happened. And
Mhm.
so, how I can commit to forever, I don't know. But, for now, and especially at this moment, we are committed to now and the future going forward. So anyway, but it's complicated. It can be very complicated if you have two different people with two different dreams. And it's something, I can't go too far down that path, but like, this is why a lot of relationships have a lot of issue, because you have somebody that there's somebody who wants adventure, travel the world, see the world, and then you've got another person inside that relationship who is content just staying exactly where they are. And if you choose to remain inside of that relationship, somebody ends up compromising ultimately is what it comes down to. So somebody's going to be drug all over the world, which is probably good for them, or the other person ends up remaining exactly where they are, or they end up apart. I mean, those are the real three options inside of that. And again, relationship dynamics difficult, like it's super, super difficult. And so quite often, sometimes I think a lot of people say this is like, perhaps, when we retire, we can move to Italy, or, whatever it is the dream looks
Mhm.
like.
Mhm.
And so again, we end up putting it off. And, I have personal experience in this department. Is like my father loves the idea of my life. He would he's still in Alberta, and it becomes a thing where he actually expressed to me how, I'm going to say, how much he envies me because I actually did the thing that I wanted to do, and that is to say that he would rather be living this way himself. And so, but and again, it's very difficult to take and look at somebody's life and say, well, that could have been possible.
Right.
Of course, it could have been possible, but given the way it was, and the life path he was on, it was probably not going to happen. Things are very different now than they were then. So either way, it's the idea is it's possible. Is it absolutely possible with the person you're in a relationship right this minute? you know,
Maybe not.
maybe not, right? But it is, and part of it comes down to, and this is the conversation I'd have with anybody, is part of it comes down to enrolling somebody in the idea. Like, it's like, well, okay, and this is how it worked inside of our relationship was Andrea did not want to come here forever, for sure, but she was open to coming and trying it out for a year. And so we tried it out for a year, and then it turned into, eventually it turned into a pandemic. And then it's like, well, this is a pretty good place to be. And so, but, and that's just sort of how life works, right? And who knows? I don't know what it'll be like, where we'll be, 12 months or 24 months from now. We might be right here. We might be somewhere different. I'm not sure. But, this is the beauty of living life not by the rules, is kind of how I put it. Is we get to make this up. We get to decide where it is we want to live, how it is we want to live. All these things are a choice. So
Mhm.
yeah.
So, what do you think holds most people back? Is it fear? Is it, um, I know there's a quote, something to the effect of don't be afraid of the unknown, but be afraid of what you won't experience if you don't change. Um, I don't, what thoughts do you have around that?
Well, what holds most people back, as near as I can tell, and this is just based on working with, like, I've worked with thousands of people over the years in many different capacities, but generally speaking, coaching of some sort. And what holds most people back is an idea that something or another is not possible. Like, that is to use a different example, is like, I've never been skinny, I can't be skinny, or whatever. I've never been in shape, it's too hard. All these ideas, and generally speaking, they're false, and but they come from somewhere, right? And so we all walk around with a set of beliefs, and those beliefs, generally speaking, we were not born with, but we developed over a lifetime of hearing
Mhm.
things. Somebody
Mhm.
said something, and it's really unfortunate because there are a lot of us that are held back by beliefs that that we had instilled in us probably before we were 7 years old. Things that we saw, things that we heard, however that is. Like, to use one of the old adages, money doesn't grow on trees. Well, no, it doesn't. But it doesn't mean that it's a limited resource, which is what that implies, right? Like, and of course, so we hear all these things, and over a lifetime, it becomes, well, we end up with this idea that money is hard to come by, or whatever idea, easy come, easy go, and da da da. And so this is what holds most people back, right? This isn't possible. This isn't reasonable, or a list of 10,000 excuses why you wouldn't want to, move to a foreign country or do any of those things. They've been given some idea from somebody at some point in time, and they're holding on to it, even if they're not conscious of it.
Right.
And that's probably the biggest challenge. Is it's not a thing that you necessarily say out loud, but it's bouncing around inside of your brain. And so, this is the thing. Quite often, like I say, I work with business owners, and business owners will come to me. This is a good, bad example, but they'll say, I need help with marketing. Well, 99% of the time, their issue is not marketing, right? Yeah, they want more customers or need more customers, however that is. But the problem actually isn't marketing at all. It really comes down to mindset. So they have something broken in their brain, in a sense, that says that they can't or don't deserve it, or they, for whatever reason, they can't achieve a particular goal. And so, to use a personal example, back in, well, whatever, 2007, I started a business. And up until then, I had a belief. That, like, the only way that I could possibly ever make $1 million was if I won, basically if I won the lottery, or I had a rich relative give it to
Mhm.
me. And so I started this business. And in the first year of business, we did about $250,000 worth of business. And I was like, it was the weirdest thing. This little light bulb moment. There was a switch flicked in my brain, and I said, we could make $1 million at this next year. And then we did. But
Mm.
until that moment, it was impossible. Like, you understand,
Mm.
up until then, it was like, unless I won a lottery, and that would never happen because I didn't play the lottery, I would not get $1 million. So for me, $1 million was impossible. Then the switch switched, and then it happened. And so, I don't want to say it's easy or any of that stuff, but really, that is the thing that holds most of us back. This idea that it's somehow, like, outside of our reach. It's outside of the realm of possibility for us. And so that would be the one. And like I say, the toughest part of that about this is that it's not necessarily conscious, it's subconscious most of the time. People don't even realize that all these things that are bouncing around inside their brain are affecting how they show up each and every day, right? And how they show up for business, and how they show up for their job. I mean, any number of these things that keep them stuck right exactly where they are. This goes for anybody. This goes for somebody who has a job and wants a raise or a promotion or something. And if they've got an idea that, anything, right, that because I am a woman, or because I am not smart, or because I, have only been here for 5 years and everybody else has been here for 40 years, I can't get that raise, that promotion or something. And of course, that's broken thinking. It's not true, absolutely. So anyway, there's the long answer.
No, that was good. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
I mean, I think I've covered a lot of things, and the two biggest ones I'm just going to reiterate. One is to dream, to spend time dreaming and dream bigger than you may think is possible. Right? This really comes back to this, and that those two things actually tie together. I didn't really tie them together, but when people spend time dreaming, their biggest challenge then becomes that they've got really limited thinking around what is possible. And so I encourage them, I encourage people, if they're going to dream bigger than what they think is possible right now, and assume that it can happen. Don't worry about how, like, how will I make $1 million? How will I get that house in the hill? Don't worry about that, right? Don't worry about those details. get clear on what it is that you want, crystal clear, and then believe that it's possible for you. And you may, I believe, will be surprised at the result. I think that's the big one.
Well, thanks for what you shared with us today. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Actually, I have a website, which is Quick Wins with an S .coach, quickwins.coach. And so folks stop by the website. There's a button on there actually to book a session with me. And that's just a talk. So a person could just actually, if they had questions or want to know more about what it is that I do, that's a really great way to connect with me. Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us today and for sharing about your dream and encouraging us to reach for our dreams.
All right. Thanks. It's been a pleasure.